Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 156. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief Nick Villano. Today's title is Devils' Bad Start to April. It has been a bad April. April Fools, that came early, end of March, when the Devils got their butt 8-1 to the Boston Bruins, losing in heartbreaking fashion, blowing a 4-goal lead against the Florida Panthers. Then Sunday, injuries galore. Jack Hughes out for the season. Nathan Bastian, I think he's coming back tomorrow. But then Tuesday, losing to the Rangers. Sharon Govich going down in a fight, no less. And then Jimmy Vesey, not so good. Nick, where do we begin?
We were talking about this, Sam. Is this the worst week in the history of the New Jersey Devils? It's got to be. I can't think of a worse regular season week. Maybe one of the years that Brodeur got hurt. My hair is all kinds of crazy.
No, I. You know what? That's a good question.
Think about it.
Good question.
Just an embarrassing loss to Boston on Thursday. Blowing a 6-2 lead to the Florida Panthers on Saturday, losing your star on Sunday, and then losing to your number one rivals after beating them for the first time in 8 games on Tuesday. We're here to fix the worst week ever because we're going to have a great podcast for you. Neal McHale from Inside Hockey's on. We also have Backhanded Devil. You all know him. You all love him. We're going to have a really fun conversation with both of them today. So it's been bad, guys. It's been sad. I'm sad too. But here's the thing is that we're going to be sad together. You know, when it's like 2 negatives equal a positive. That's just math, people. Let's go. Here's the thing, Sam. For one, it was funny. Somebody responded to your Lindy Ruff article that you wrote for me in February, which is a subtle reminder that you need to write an article. You need to update things. But somebody responded to your article in February talking about how you wanted Lindy Ruff back. Do you still want Lindy Ruff back after what's just been an atrocious run?
Yes.
You still want Lindy Ruff back after this?
It has not wavered yet.
How? How has it not wavered? I need to know how.
Well, Chico Resch did say on the Sunday edition of the Let's Go Devils podcast with Schwartz Guy and I, you can't blame the coaches on this one. He said if Chico felt it was the coaches, he wouldn't even say anything. But he's adamant it's not the coaches because coaches do not coach players to play like how they have been. They're not taking the path to least resistance. They're making it difficult on themselves, which makes it even more frustrating. We pointed out on Sunday that Dougie Hamilton play, why are you passing on your backhand in the offensive zone into a crowd when Sharon Govich was wide open on the left side and you could have easily taken that path and it would have connected. He was wide open. Stuff like that.
I think the players have lost confidence in the system.
I don't think so.
They definitely 100% lost confidence in the power play system. They don't trust the power play to work. And you could tell with their body language. You could tell with how they execute.
This is what I think.
There is an execution problem. Hold on. Let me get this part out. There is an execution problem. There's definitely an issue with how the players are instilling the system. I think Lindy Ruff has a good system for today's game. I think it makes sense for this team. I do. But there's a game plan issue where he can't get out of a hole and he can't stop. He makes mistakes that cost us games. Not calling the timeout when it was 6-4 and waiting till it was 6-5. You can't stop a Panthers team once it's 6-5. Like once they have all the momentum. We saw that against Toronto. Was it last night or the night before? The night before. 2 nights ago? I don't know. It's hard to figure out what days are what. I think it was Tuesday night. So last night. Florida has shown that once the momentum goes, you can't stop it. So you have to stop it before the momentum continues. So I would have called timeout 6-3 because it was clear that the Devils were just getting pounded to dust, and they needed to stop that. But he didn't. He let it go for too long, and then they lost. And against Boston, but those games happen. If Boston was on an island, if that was its own game, sometimes you just get the doors blown off. That it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. But to have the doors blown off, then blow a lead, come out listless for a period and a half against the Islanders, and then just kind of, they had a great defensive effort in the second half against the Rangers, but I just don't think the Rangers had the respect to care. Like, the Rangers are that kind of team that they'll just kind of take days and nights off when they think that they can. And it's burned them, but we can't burn them right now without Jack Hughes. So they can do things like that where they score 3 goals and then just kind of take the foot off the gas. Sam, I don't think that Lindy Ruff's a bad coach. I don't. I think he has a good system. I think that he's smart with development. He's an amazing developmental coach. And I would take him on the coaching staff next season. I would. You want to give him the forwards if you want to give him, but as the number one guy after these 2 years where everything has gone wrong. And I will say this. This isn't Lindy Ruff's fault. It's not. Lindy Ruff is not the reason why we're here. People don't like this, and I've said it before, but there's nobody to blame for this. But I just think that you need a new voice. I think there's going to be very good voices out there. I wouldn't fire him to hire anybody. I wouldn't fire him without a plan in place, but I think you have to shop around.
I'm going to get our next guest, but let me just finish on this point.
Yeah.
Lindy Ruff, when he holds the players accountable, they respond. When he benched Ty Smith, he responded for a couple games. The Jesper Bratt, that's been well documented. But I'll end on this note. When you go through professional sports, Cincinnati Bengals, their head coach, first overall pick, the first 2.5 years sucked. They made it to the Super Bowl in the third year. All right. One more year for Lindy Ruff. That's all I'm asking for. After that, you can make fun of me. But just one more year. Just one more year. And I'm not the most patient person in the world, but I'm sticking to it. But let me get Neal on soon. But I'm sure social media has something to say.
Oh, I'm sure they have lots to say. Social media is buzzing. We got some comments coming in. Steve and Mike are just killing the comment game on Facebook right now. There's no structure with Ruff's system, Mike says. May have worked 10 plus years ago, but the game has changed. See, Mike, I disagree with you there. I don't think it's his system that's the problem. His power play system, or Mark Recchi's power play system, is terrible. I'm sorry. I really liked the hiring of Mark Recchi, but his power play system wasn't really working in Pittsburgh, and it definitely doesn't work here. There's no movement. It's a lot about standing around and just kind of sitting there and waiting for the play to develop in front of you instead of forcing the development of the play. And teams have clearly got the MO on this power play. They are able to sneak up on pucks, cause shorthanded chances, score shorthanded goals. So not a fan of the power play system. But the structure of the team, you've seen in the development of Jesper Bratt especially. Jesper Bratt's, and you saw it in the development of Pavel Zacha last year. The issue is that I feel like the types of players that he has are going to, in this system, are going to instill some one-hit wonders at the winger position. I think you can eventually get the right fit for people. I'm just worried about how somebody like an Alexander Holtz fits, because I don't think this is the best system for him. It's the best system for Hughes, though. So you kind of have to you have to take all of these things into account. It's hard to really evaluate the coach, though, without a goalie, and he's never had a goalie. It is what it is. It's just something that they have to deal with. Mackenzie Blackwood just hasn't stepped up like he did before Lindy Ruff, and maybe that's part Lindy Ruff. He hasn't been as good under Ruff as he was under Hines. So that's definitely something to consider. But there's a lot to talk about. We haven't even talked about the Jack Hughes injury and how he's out for the season, but I'm sure we'll get to that with Neal. And speaking of which, Sam, I see you're back. Sam, I can't hear you now.
Oops. Sorry about that. Yeah, too many buttons. Me a heart attack over here. Nick. Too many buttons. Anyway, what I was saying is I'm still sticking to my guns. One more year of Lindy Ruff. I don't care what people say. The third year will be the charm, and then everyone's going to tell you, everyone's going to say, I told you, Lindy, stick with Lindy. One more year.
Okay.
One more year.
We'll see.
Anyway, our next guest, he writes for InsideHockey.com. He follows the team. You can find him on Twitter at Neal McHale. Neal, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, listen, if we ignore how the Devils have been on the ice, everything's great.
Yeah, other than that, it seems like everything's just been roses up with the Devils these days, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the big storyline of the week is that besides the terrible play on the ice, Jack Hughes down with a mild MCL sprain. He's going to be out for the season. First, I want to talk about what was your initial thought of that? I mean, a mild MCL sprain doesn't usually keep you out for 3 to 4 weeks, but I think the Devils maybe made the decision to shut him down for the season. Do you agree with that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at it and just look at what the big picture is. And obviously, whenever you're dealing with a player who's going to be a franchise, player for your team, and has already showed that this season, that's always going to be the direction. And I think just protecting this from getting worse. Obviously, it was a situation that Lindy Ruff even said last night in his post game when addressing the Hughes being out for the rest of the year that it didn't have to happen, and he was pretty fortunate that it's not a severe injury. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to look at it. This is the team's direction. They know that they're not making it to the playoffs. Even if they strung off a decent streak here, they would still likely be somewhere in that lottery contention. At this point, let's protect the asset that you have, and that I think is the main idea behind it. Because he even mentioned that Hughes was in the kind of spirits that he felt like he could play next week. Now, whether he'd be medically cleared to play or not is another question. But I think there was probably a very good chance that if he wanted to, that he could play this year. But again, you have to protect that asset there because again, the Devils are thinking big picture and all of this. So. I was not surprised by the decision to shut him down. I figured that was the way they were going to go, even if it, was mild. And I think that is obviously very fortunate for him.
So he'll only end up playing 49 games this season. He played all of the games last season, but it was only a 56-game schedule. And he didn't play all the games the season before. There's some fans will bring up his size, not NHL size, not NHL ready size, but clearly he can at least play the game. Are you a little worried about the future of his injuries just based on what we saw this season?
I'm not. I mean, I think just because of, the skill level is there, the fact that, we see the injuries he had, obviously the one that happened recently, Lindy had said as much that, it was, a mistake, he tried to miss a hit and, that's part of the learning process for him. And then the other one there was another, incident that, how often do you really see that kind of happen? And obviously that was a, frustrating one as well. But In terms of the body of work that he's put together, I still think that, he's a player that's going to be able to stay, healthy and have some consistencies. And I think, if you look at it next year coming in, healthy into the 22-23 year, he might appreciate the fact that he might finally have a normal season. The fact that, we're thinking the season's going to start relatively on time, as compared to the past years where there's always been a bit of a bump. Hopefully, knock on wood, that COVID's not an issue and you don't have these stretches of long periods of time of not playing. That certainly impacts the body in its own ways as well. So, I think the fact that he might get his first shot at playing in a normal season next year, can go a long way for him as well. But no concern on him now just because of the body of work that he's shown when he's in the lineup.
Makes sense. All right, so no Jack Hughes in the lineup for the rest of the season. We got 12 games left. What are we watching for? What are we looking forward to? What's some of the stuff? I mean, what are you looking forward to? You and me we're in a similar boat where we have to make content. What are you looking forward to for the last stretch?
Well, I actually just put this in my column today. I think, one of the things that the Devils are going to do in this time is reveal how good they can be. I mean, obviously Jack Hughes has been, a driver of the team. He's been a driver of a line. He's been a driver to the offense and the speed that this Devils have. But what else can they do with his absence? Obviously last night was a weird game to kind of assess them in because, we talked about, not a lot being created. There wasn't much created on either side outside that first period, which even that was a slower pace than we're used to watching. But I'm going to see the kind of players that they have in the lineup now, and maybe some that they call up and what they can do at this level. But I'll tell you, a big question for me is can Jesper Bratt, be a guy who can drive a line on his own? I think he's shown at times he can be, but this could be more of an opportunity for him to, I imagine they'll play him up with Nico Hischier. But if he can be a guy who can drive a line on there, that may go a long ways in determining what even his future is going to be. Obviously, he's looking, into an RFA. He's going to be a restricted free agent with ARB rights, and he's maybe making the argument to his camp that, hey, I think I might be a $7.5 million player, and if he has a dip here, the Devils will certainly look at that and say, well, maybe we see you more as a $6.5 million based off of, the body of work that happened after Jack obviously went down. So that's something I'm watching for. Again, like I was saying, some of the players that might come up from Utica, I think they'll still be a little leery of putting Holtz in there. I think they really want him to have some consistency. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if they try again and see what they can do with a guy like Nolan Foote. I think the Devils are certainly looking into what their options might be for that middle to bottom six, and I think Foote's in contention for that. And then just overall seeing how the team could try and respond to that. I think that defensively there's certainly going to be areas that the team's going to have to address in the off season. Goaltending, that's been an issue all year. I have a hard time thinking that's going to reveal itself to improve, or you're not going to find some kind of consistency with 3 weeks left in the season. But I think overall, if you can find some guys in that forward group and maybe establish roles a little bit better, that could go a long way in helping the organization determine what they're going to do in the off season.
So you brought up Bratt, and that's going to be a very interesting situation. I have a couple people in my mentions, and I just feel like that everybody's pretty doom and gloom nowadays anyway, Neal. But are you at all worried just from what you're seeing on the ice? Because he was pointless in his last 4 games, and these 4 games have been a disaster.
No, I think again, this is going to be the time though for him to show that he can drive a line in there. It's an interesting because he is a player that has so much skill in there, and in the last few games the Devils have had, absent they played a Panthers game where they were able to score 6 goals. But they have to find an opportunity to get him loose. He's had to play in tougher matchups going down the stretch here too, and the whole prospect too of playing and being on a team that yields so much goals, that can be tiring too for a player, and having to constantly be the answer out there. So I certainly think there's some major upside in just for Brad. Obviously, it's going to be an interesting negotiation to follow on a lot of levels. I even had a hard time coming up with some of the contract comparables on him. But I'm not too concerned about it. I think, though, it would, be a wise decision if the Devils, can look to address some of the forward position here, because I think, insulating him and having some, other guys that they can lean on for scoring, has to be a priority for this team. We know there's a myriad of things that they need to focus on, but that's got to be one of them as well, because I think, you see these stretches here. You can't just rely on Brad. Obviously, you're not going to be able to rely on Hughes for the rest of the season. And this team overall has to find guys there. I'm not sure if that cast of characters is necessarily on the team right now, but they're going to have to find it in some way.
So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. You wrote about Semyon Varlamov and him being an option for the Devils next season. What's your assessment of the goalie situation, the goalie market, and maybe what do you think there's any chance at all that we try again with Bernier and Blackwood? Like, what's your assessment of goalies going into the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a fascinating one on that. You look at, a lot of the guys who are going to go into unrestricted free agents, you're getting into that 33, 34, even up to, guys like Marc-Andre Fleury, who I believe turned 38. And, you wouldn't even expect that maybe they'd be players that would be, looking at a team like the Devils at this stage in career. But goaltending is an interesting one because, there's only so many jobs in the league. So you see players that tend to end up in spots you wouldn't think they would go to. That said, I think that, all the troubles the organization's had this year, they haven't really come out and made much definitive, announcements on what they expect to see from Blackwood this year. I'm not as optimistic as others might be that he's going to appear in a game this year. Bernier, obviously, he's out for the year, and it remains to be seen if he's in the lineup. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating market to follow. I mean, I would have expected the Devils would be a team that would also kick tires on a guy like Korpisalo, but then, he goes down with the injury that he's had. So, it's going to be interesting. Even the guy who they saw last night, Gorgiev, who's a player I think they had interest in, going back to maybe a season or two ago, he could be an option for them as well, because you are looking at teams that have, money allocated to, goaltenders. And that's why I brought up the Varlamov point, because this team needs to do that. But, it's hard for me to think in my mind that they're going to be able to roll the tandem of Blackwood and Bernier again. In fact, I had wondered if they don't get the best news on Bernier in the offseason, if he's potentially a guy who has LTIR implications and ends up being part of a trade as a result of that. You look at a team like Washington, who has 2 restricted free agent goaltenders there. Would that be something they'd be looking to do, is get some LTIR room and ship off a guy like Ilya Samsonov? I mean, I think the Devils are going to have to assess, all of the options that are in that goaltending market, because they've been burned by it now, in back-to-back years. Obviously, no fault of Bernier. It was an injury, whereas the year prior with Crawford, it was a situation that just, things didn't work out the way they, either side really wanted it to. But, I mean, at some point, I think they're going to have to figure out, what this goaltending tandem is going to be. I certainly believe they're going to go into the market, whether it's the trading market or the free agent market, to get a guy there. But, it remains to be seen what that market's going to look like. It's always tricky, and I'm sure there's teams that are watching what happened to the Devils this year and say, okay, we need to do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen to us. Because, as you see, I mean, the Devils had some strong performances this year, a strong offensive team at times, and goaltending's really done a number on them.
Yeah. I mean, goaltending it's been a ride, Neal. It's been a ride. All right, so you seem to be somewhat positive, but this week has been rough, Neal. We haven't seen a lot of positive. We haven't seen a lot of good to take out of this week. But you wrote after the Rangers game where we won that you see them as proof that they're going in the right direction after just a disastrous 4 games. Are you wavering at all?
No, I don't think I'm wavering on it. I think, this still is a team. I mean, it's still a very young team. I mean, Lindy had even said it. They lost 8. You lose 8-1 to the Bruins, and then your next game you come out and you lose, a game in which you have a 6-2 lead to the Panthers. I mean, it's a tough lesson to learn, and they're learning lessons, the tough way. But they have a young team. I really genuinely think that think of it this way. I mean, there's teams sometimes that come in with high expectations, which I think the Devils did. I think the Devils expected they would, at the very least, be pushing at a bubble spot and be playing meaningful games this time of season. And they went out and make deals. You signed Dougie Hamilton, but at least in this Devils case, you signed Dougie Hamilton. You have these expectations, but it's not like they went out and they made all of these big moves. And this is still a team that's staying true to its identity, trying to stay young. And but I'll tell you, next year there's going to be expectations on them, and these young players are going to have to take that next step. And I think that could bode well too for management to come in and say, you know what, we're making moves. We're going to go out there. Who knows? We get back to the goaltending for a minute. They might decide, you know what, we're going out. We're getting 2 goaltenders here, and maybe that means that Blackwood and Bernier are both playing elsewhere on this team, or one of them is on LTIR for a year, or they're going to have a 3-way competition there and see where things go with that. I think they're going to be active on the, free agent market as well. I think I've been saying for how long now that I think that they're certainly going to be a team with cap strap teams like maybe Minnesota, and looking at a guy like Kevin Fiala. What I'm getting at is there's going to be some options because of the cap space they have, the situation other teams are, and the fact that management certainly sees expectations in that. So I'm not losing any faith, I would say, in the direction that this team is going, just because it is such a young team, and they've shown at times they have the talent. But they're going to have to get some guys on this team that can really step up and play, because the fact that they've been so inconsistent at times, the fact that when things have gotten bad, they've wilted like we've seen in past seasons. That cannot be acceptable. And maybe that means that you do see a lot of changes into the current, cast of characters they have here, to kind of change the tide and change the tone of the organization.
One last question, Neal. Just out of curiosity, do you see them making any major changes, or do you think they're going to be maybe like the small ones that you see that we're already seeing in the rumors? Do you see them making like astronomical changes to try to change the culture, or just to in and out kind of thing, or what's your thoughts?
I don't think so, and I think one of the reasons I say that is because if you look at the core of this team, I mean, it's you have guys like Nico, you have Jesper. Obviously, there's a contract situation that's going to undergo on that, but I expect they're going to do everything in their power to hopefully lock him up to a long-term deal, though I could see a bridge scenario in that as well. And then obviously Jack and Dawson Mercer, I think Sharangovich distinguished himself as well. Dougie Hamilton signed long-term. So I don't know if I could really say I'd see sweeping changes or mammoth changes to the organization, just because those are your young building blocks, right? I mean, is it it's not a big move necessarily to move a guy like Pavel Zacha, despite the fact that he was a high pick some years ago. Just for an example, I should say. But no, I don't see those changes because of those building blocks there, and I think they're committed to this process. They know, the areas that they need to add on are fairly obvious. They know it's in goal. I think they'd like to shore up the defense. And like I said, I think that they'd like to get some secondary goal scoring so they can insulate some of these guys and not have so much of an 82 game season to rely on 4 or 5 guys. I mean, that's going to be a big part of what they do. So I don't see the big changes coming in there. I certainly think that they'll listen on everything. I mean, when you had the season that you had, and you're in the position the Devils are in, you have to listen on everything there. But I don't see the big sweeping changes.
Neal McHale, Inside Hockey. Neal, what do you got coming up? What do you got written? Where can people find you, and what do you got coming up on the site?
Yeah, so you can find all of my work on InsideHockey.com. Those of you who follow me on Twitter, I share the stories pretty much as soon as they go up there, so you can see them on there. We'll have a few other things out here too. I was actually working on something, assessing some of the options on defense. Certainly going to explore some of the goaltending options there. Varlamov Varlamov, I should say, was very timely with the Islanders in town. I think there'll be some more looking into some of the goaltenders that could exist there, and even what the Devils may do in the free agent market, because I think that this is a prime time for that organization to make some steps in that direction as well. I don't know if people kind of noticed this, but the Devils added to their scouting staff a bit this year too, in terms of adding free agent recruitment scout, and I think that's going to be something that they're going to use their advantage this summer.
Yeah, we love a good scouting staff, Neal, and we're looking forward to some of those pieces. Follow Neal at Inside Hockey and at Neal McHale on Twitter. Neal, thanks so much for coming on and spending some time with us.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Neal. That is Neal McHale sticking to his guns. Sticking to his guns after that article. You see? But we didn't ask him about Lindy Ruff, did we?
We didn't.
We should have. But he likes the direction of the team. Neal McHale, you are my new best friend.
Here's the thing about, and I guess I'd feel a little bit more comfortable asking Dan, since he works with us, or Vinny, or people, but we'll use Dan as an example. Like I feel comfortable asking Dan, and I feel comfortable asking Chico, and it's not that I don't feel comfortable asking Neal, and I would if I felt like. I first of all, I feel like when it's you and me, Sam, you and me ask the questions of the people, and we try to do that with our interview guests as well. But it's always weird to put people in a position to ask about people's job security, and then having to face that person that you just commented on their job security. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
So I feel
but
like
he likes the direction of the team. He likes the direction of the team. So what I'm going to infer, I'm going to assume that Lindy's the right coach for now.
You know what they say when you assume?
Yeah, I know. But I usually assume right. I'm just kidding.
It's you and me, Sam. You're making it out of you and me.
We got Backhanded Devil coming on.
Yeah, that one's going to be a fun one.
I have a question though. We didn't talk about this in the pre-show. Is he Backhanded Devil, or does he have a name?
I sent you a name. He has a first name.
Are we allowed to use it? That's what I'm pretty much asking.
I used it last time. I didn't ask him again, but
we'll
just call him Backhanded Devil. We'll go. This is what you're for, Sam. You're the producer. You do the pre-interview.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have it in the graphics, but there is another Devils fan named Frank too. So I was kind of gave it out. So I didn't want people to get confused, between the two.
I don't think it's that guy. We won't ask that guy to come on. We have no interest in that. But
Shorts
anyway,
guy told me he trashed me once on Twitter. Did you hear? I don't know.
I didn't see it. I particularly, Moving on.
Yeah. You should get the instigator on that one, Shorts guy. He likes to ruffle feathers. Gets my blood boiling.
Game misconduct. He has to miss the Sunday show, the flagship.
Yeah.
He has to he's downgraded to the.
Throw him out off the podcast for one game.
But he has to come on and do a Woo report at 1:00 on a Monday.
Nothing beats the Woo report, where I speak my mind.
So, what are you looking forward to, Sam? We got a couple of minutes before we get Backhanded Devil on. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the season? What are you trying to see out of this last 12 games?
Well, you know what? What I want to see. I want to see a team coming together. You've lost Jack Hughes. You've lost a couple players to injuries. I would like to. Here's what I like so far. PK Subban taking care of business.
Yeah,
we can have that debate, but let's not have that debate.
We won't debate. I love that.
Sharon Govich.
I wanted to resign him after that.
Sharangovich, not a fighter, did what he had to do. I thought Braden Schneider dropped the gloves and at first and actually threw the first punch.
That penalty
and
was BS.
It was total BS.
And Braden Schneider holding him against the board so he could take off his gloves and get the advantage in the fight. What a piece of whatever.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't take him. Dawson Mercer's better than Schneider, and he's just freaking jealous. He's a piece of garbage.
You know what? And have fun in New York, Schneider, because you're going to end up like the other Schneider.
Oh, and can I just say, if I get another Devils fan coming into my mention saying I should have been a Rangers fan, like shut up. Like it hasn't been miserable to be a Rangers fan for the past 30 years. Are you kidding me? You should have been a Rangers fan for having one good season. Get the hell out of here with this.
Let me tell you something about. First off, you really have to be like a jerk, a jerk personality to be a Ranger fan. That's like a prerequisite. And then you got to talk in that accent. Like, they don't say Rangers. They say Rangers. If you ever go to Madison Square, it's just so annoying. And then it gets louder and louder and louder with their obnoxious New York accent. It's just, and then it's like, and then I remember one time they were like, oh, you guys don't have any fans, blah, 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 blah. And then, it's like, all right. And then when you're arguing
why they
back
have to lean on that? You have to lean on the no fans thing when you have no cups. Get the frick out of here.
Let me tell you something. This is how sad it is. The great Stan Fischler is 90 years old. Happy birthday, Stan. Belated birthday.
Happy birthday, Stan. We love Stan.
8, 9, I don't know how many decades he was covering hockey. Since 1949, I think, 1950. He's only seen the Rangers win the cup once during his tenure as a journalist. That's pathetic. He's seen the Islanders 4 times. He's seen the Devils 3 times. But only the Rangers once. And that was in 94. And some will say that that's not the New York Rangers, the Oilers, or the New York Oil Hawks. Basically combining Mike Keenan's team from the Blackhawks, I think the 92 Blackhawks, Larmer, some of these other guys, and the Oilers taking advantage of a Canadian team that was not doing well financially. It was the Oilers were basically the Rangers farm team for a while.
I'm not going to take
90s.
anything away from the Rangers win. 94 was a great year. It really did a lot for hockey. Great. But when you're sitting here and telling me that you wish you were a Rangers fan because of the stretch the Devils are on right now, when the Rangers really, what do they have to show for these past 10 years? Really? I mean, they signed Artemi Panarin, and that's where they are. Because Artemi Panarin is a great guy, a great player, and they really won the Zibanejad trade. But here's the thing is that they're getting this all-world Shesterkin season, but he's starting to fall off. They're getting this all-world Chris Kreider season. Both of those numbers are not replayable. Why can't I think of replicable? I don't. Whatever. You know what I mean? Repeatable.
He's a one-hit wonder. That's basically what you're saying.
I think Shesterkin's going to be great, but this great? I don't think it sustains. I don't think it's even possible in today's game. So,
well, that's a Gerard Gallant team, essentially. That's the
thing I don't like is that they have Gallant.
But I got a question for you. I might get in trouble by asking.
Okay.
Since
but
we were
I'll
on the
answer
topic.
while you get our guest.
Yeah. Which owner would you rather have, James Dolan or Joshua Harris?
Oh, there's no chance in hell I want James Dolan. I'm sorry.
Really? At least he cares. At least he
doesn't,
cares.
Though. No, he literally, it's very famous that he only cares about the Knicks. which is pretty much the same thing with Harris. I think Harris only cares about the Sixers, and the Devils are a financial asset.
So you rather have Joshua Harris and James Dolan?
I'm not saying that I like having Joshua Harris. I'm just saying I'd rather. James Dolan is
so
terrible.
He's the lesser of the two evils right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
I was just wondering.
It's like, would I rather be married to, Lorena Bobbitt or Madonna? They're different, but still both not very good.
Or here's a hypothetical. This is a more better question, and I'll leave it to you talking to social media. If I told you the Devils lost to the Rangers in 2012 in the playoffs, but they would win 2 other cups in the next 10 years, and the Rangers nothing, or would you want to still keep that Henriquez over?
No, I'm taking the Cups. I could care less.
Really? Okay. Well, why'd you talk to people about it?
Cups. Always pick the Cup. Listen, guys, if you told me that the Rangers were going to win the Cup that year and beat the Kings, then I'd pause. Because I like that they've only won in 94. But if you're telling me that, say Brodeur doesn't get hurt in 2013, you remember that the Devils went on a tear to start that season. They looked really good. Then Brodeur got hurt, and it all fell apart. So say they win that year, they beat Chicago. And then maybe they keep Kovalchuk and he doesn't retire. And maybe there's such a snowball effect of 2013 that we're still feeling today. But guys, I'm sorry. I know we want to be sad, and I want to be sad too. But I still feel like we're right there. If we figure out the goaltending situation, I think we can make the playoffs next year. I'm gonna get torn apart for this opinion. Craig Best says I feel like it's time for a new coach and system. We were talking about that earlier in the show. I think that you can't bring back Lindy Ruff next year. I just don't think you can. I don't think Lindy Ruff's a bad coach. I just think the situation hasn't worked. And it's far beyond Ruff. But the reality of the situation is you've had Ruff for 2 years and we've gotten worse. Our record's gotten worse. The players look better. We got more points, but I don't think that that's indicative of what has happened. So, that is what it is. But Sam, you're back.
Am I back?
You're back now.
Backhanded devil? Anyway.
Back and better than ever.
I was telling Backhanded Devil that also known as Frank, not related to the other Frank that we were talking about on Twitter, the guy that called me out. Anyway, I love his stuff on Twitter. I get a kick out of it. I don't retweet it enough. That's what I told him.
Oh, you gotta
and he's
retweet him
on.
More.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. You can find him on @Backhanded Devil on Twitter. Backhanded, how are you tonight?
Greetings, gentlemen. Greetings.
Frank, welcome back. Glad to have you back.
Oh, glad to be back. Well, we're kind of like the wish it was better circumstances thing, but glad to be here.
Let's talk about it. We needed a vent session. we needed a little light in the fan base. We needed to get excited. We needed to get happy. So I want you to vent right now.
And you thought of
How
me?
do you feel? How do you feel about the Devils?
I texted my wife yesterday during the game, and right after they said the Jack Hughes news, and I'm like, this season is pain. And I mean, and that's what it is. It's painful, but it's just like you have to kind of keep watching, and you feel so invested in this team and you want to believe in the growth and and what you see. And so, my hope is still there. And, I was really interested in listening to Neal talk. I was really wondering about his answer with the goaltending, because you got to think that's priority number one. And there's just so many unknowns. And I think that's where the fan base is right now. It's just like not knowing where to turn. And most are turning towards anger, but, it's frustrating. And mixed in with exciting and desperation all at the same time.
So where do we go from here? Backhanded Devil, where, you are the comic relief of the Twitter sphere, a place that's been kind of just a
you make me
negative
laugh.
space. It's a negative space for a long time. Tell me, help me get through this, Backhanded. Help me figure out where to go from here. What do we do next?
You gotta look at the humor in things, and that applies in life. Can I tell a life story? You guys got time for that?
Oh yeah, we got all the time in the world.
All right. So start with the sad part. My father died a couple of years ago, and my brother came over to help with the estate and stuff like that. And he was staying at my dad's condo, and so the way he dealt with grief was he hadn't told my sister that he came over yet. So he picked up my dad's landline. They had those back in the day, and called my sister so that she would get, the caller ID of my dad coming up, and, totally freaked her out. And then of course we all laugh about it. And I think that's how I deal with the Devils is through the grief. You got to find the humor. And I mean, that's what I try to do at Photoshop. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, it's definitely not being a Ranger fan.
No. Yeah, I mean, listen, sometimes I feel like this season called me in December. It was I don't know. This whole season has just been sadness upon sadness upon sadness.
Roller coaster, I would think. I think it's more of a roller coaster. Because we've had a couple highs. That Tampa game that we did outside of Amalie Arena. And then it just
we were
dropped.
Already out of the playoffs.
Ever since they brought out those jerseys, it sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked. We're cursed now.
It's
I'm telling you, if I was Joshua Harris, say if I had the helipad and I got on a helicopter, I would just tell management, be like, look, I don't care what happens. I'm hiring Backhanded Devil to design our jersey because it's that much better than what we can come up with. We'll overthink it. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, that's cool with me. I will put you down for my letter of recommendation.
Yeah, listen. Hey, Sam got in the top 10 of the announcer thing, so he has power. He has pull, clearly.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure about that. I'm just saying. Others didn't get in the top 10. You were there. I'll tell you what. Just real quick, that I was thinking about the other day because I see a lot of negativity and toxic comments coming from Devils fans, towards other people, other Devils fans, and I thought about what would life would have been had I was chosen to be the PA announcer. Right now, I think life is pretty good because I still get to hang out with you, Nick. I don't know if I'm even allowed to be doing this on the side. If I was working for the Devil, I would. One person did tweet at me like, "Oh, you say this about Jack Hughes now, but would you be saying this if you were the PA announcer?"
No,
that kind of stuff. I'll be like, no, I would tote the corporate line. I mean, money talks, right? What do you think, Frank? Money talks. I can be bought. I'm a sellout. I'll admit it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. You know,
And
I
most of
would
these,
tote the
most of these
corporate
people
line.
calling you out have like a picture of a freaking sunset as their freaking picture, or their name is "In God We Trust" or something stupid. Like
Yeah.
hiding their identity and yelling at people on Twitter and then saying, "Well, would you say this if you had a high up job in a sports?" No,
No.
it's beyond.
You know what I'd
idiotic.
be
But
saying? I'd be saying, be patient. Be patient. Good times are going to come in the next couple of years, 2025. We just got to, trust the process. I would be saying all that stuff. I'd be lying, but I would be
process.
praising Joshua Harris and David Blitzer for just spending a lot of money and trying to make improvements in the arena experience. And, those new third jerseys, it's unique. Not lying, but I'm not really telling you how I feel. I mean, there's a good way to spin it. But I want to ask you, Frank, one question. Sorry I'm monopolizing the interview time, Nick. But I did want to ask Frank this because I was upset about it yesterday on Devils After Dark and Game Day Live with Vinny Parisi, also at pucksandpitchforks.com. I was pissed that it took 2.5 days to give us an update on Jack Hughes. I mean, at least, stall a little bit. Doctors are looking at Jack Hughes. We'll give you an update, at a certain time or something. Instead, it was like this. Radio silence. Do you agree with me, Frank? Were you a little annoyed?
Well, yeah, it was like, did they take his images to the 1 hour photo place and they lost them or something? I mean, what is going on with that? It's just like, yeah, we took some pictures of it. We're still trying to figure it out. Like, it's a big CAPTCHA thing, like click all the squares with a crosswalk in it, and then we'll figure out how his knee's doing. It's just like, come on. You can figure
Sorry,
this
guys,
out faster.
I got locked out of my MySpace account. I can't get Jack Hughes' knee images. Just give me a minute. I'm standing in line at Walgreens
I can't use
trying
the
to get
previous
them printed out.
password. Yeah, I mean, it just that, and it totally took me off guard because I was watching the game on TV, and then all of a sudden it was like, the headline across the top was, Erica Walker going, and done for the season. Where it's like, what? Wait, what? And I'm like, what is happening?
In the middle of the game.
Yeah, it was in between the first and second, I think. I was like, oh.
It's like
The worst part about that was that they teased it. They said, coming up after the break, we'll have an update on Jack Hughes. I was like, did you just tease that? Like, listen, I write about 9 to 10 teases a day for my day job. I write teases for a living, but that seemed dirty to me. I felt dirty listening to that.
And I'm Ryan Seacrest, and we'll find out after the message.
Yeah. It's like the 11 p.m. news, right? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Jack Hughes, find out at 11. Did Jack Hughes bang up his knee and he's out for the next 6 months? Find out at 11. Or it could happen to you. The news things.
Yeah.
It's like
how you
sprained MCL. It could happen to you, just like Jack Hughes. See us at 11.
I'm going to pull this away from Sam and get us back on the rails. So Backhand Devil, you've been on top of it all season. You didn't have to go away, Sam. What is when you look back at the 2021-2022 season, what is a positive moment that's going to stand out for you?
I think, seeing it's really tough, I think, between Hughes and Brett for me. There were flashes of, our star wide receiver, Andre Johnson, and then you would think, but then it would fade out. And then there was, you'd have VZ would get hot and then kind of fade out. But just continually improving is Brett and Hughes. I mean, they just keep feeding us more. They just keep they're enabling us. That's the problem, guys. Is they're enabling us to continue this hope going on. I mean, it's a pleasure to watch it, and I think that is probably the most positive thing of the year. And then you sprinkle in the rest of it, the Mercer, the Sharon Govich turning around. I was getting worried about that kid. I was thinking, oh no, is he going to be falling back? And he's blossomed, and so it's like all the pieces are there, and it's just a matter of reshuffling it and getting that goaltending, kind of. I'm going off the rails too now. Sorry, but
no, it's good. It's good analysis. I agree with you. Frank, you know what I think, which wasn't happening about 2 years ago, or even in Jack Hughes' rookie season. This team is finally becoming a team where they have each other's backs. Where, what PK Subban did is one example. Sharon Govich, when Jesper Bratt, we talked about this on Devils After Dark, that Jesper Bratt is sticking up for his teammates, or even Andre Johnson or Andreas Janssen, although he probably didn't know the rule about the helmet that one time.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but but I appreciate the effort. I think this team, we don't see the record yet, and I'm not making excuses, but I see that they're starting to come together.
Yeah.
We'll wait till next season, see where that goes. Now, if they have another dud and they're in last place in the league, then yeah, you could start firing people at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like in a perfect world, how delicious would it have been to get that prime Corey Schneider in net now? Holy cow! I mean, you throw in, something like that in net, and what did this season look like? Yeah. But like I said, we're on our way up. I think the Devils they're trajecting upwards, and they're one or two pieces away, and I'm just hoping Fitz is the guy to make those decisions this off season and make it happen.
So let's look at your work. You just do a phenomenal job with making the graphics. You do them very quickly too. I'm impressed with how quickly you get these things out. You've made a lot of new ones this season, a lot of new players, a lot of new goal things. You pretty much have one for every player, I believe. What's the favorite one you've made this year?
It's interesting. You guys asked me that question, and I was like, what was my favorite one of the year? And so I kind of, went back and I was looking through, and, I think my favorite one of the year was my Dancing Earl tribute. I did just, it's kind of one of those things to deal with grief with humor and creativity. And, that's kind of how I deal with it. And losing Dancing Earl, I think, was a big blow to the whole Devils fan base. It was just like, like enough already. And I made a little, like how they did the Jimmy Hayes sticker, I was like, well, what if they did one for Dancing Earl? And then just, all right, what would that look like? So I just did the simple black vest with the red tie and a Devils button on it, and that one really kind of resonated with the fan base, and everybody, really enjoyed that one. I enjoyed that one. But I think on kind of the flip side, the Ben Affleck wearing the jersey, I think has been my favorite this year.
That's a good one. That if you haven't seen it yet, it's one of the most recent ones he put out. So go to Backhanded Devils Twitter, where we've all seen the meme of Ben Affleck smoking a cigarette and just he's having a day. Mm-hmm. and it's been our whole season has just been kind of looking up at the sky like, man, I don't even smoke anymore, but man, this team will drive you to that. I swear to God.
Yeah, so that one I just started doing the game day graphics for that. Anytime they wear the jersey, I just throw in that picture and then who they're playing and the date, and it's kind of like a syndication. And kind of get to use it over and over again. So
it's a fair point. And every time it gets me to laugh. Every time it gets me to kind of it's like, oh yeah, well, I understand how he feels right now, and it's all because of the Devils. But Sam, you got anything else for Frank?
Just one last question. Has there, sometimes when, we put stuff out on social media and you think it's, I did one with, I did a Photoshop of those jerseys, those third jerseys with A Christmas Story, Ralphie,
Yeah, with the pink bunny.
Yeah, no, well, not with the pink bunny. But did it with, where the robbers, they had the stripe.
Oh, yeah. When Ralphie goes out and saves the day.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is the funniest thing. It's going to go viral. And then, you know what happened? Nobody liked it. Nobody liked it. Do you ever have those moments where you think you got a goal, that you got a winner, and then you turn out that it just stinks?
Yeah, pretty much all the time. That's how I.
Well,
you talk about the fan base and how kind of just getting beat on and everything, and it's kind of like misery loves company. This week I posted that the clinched. I don't know if you saw that, where the Devils clinched the lottery ball. And that thing got over like 350 likes or something on it. I mean, it's just, I just did that just to be like, oh, here we go again. We clinched. And then, something like that will like blow up. And you're just like, what is that? But, misery loves company,
Frank, the good news is we got Utica. So at least there's a small piece that's not completely miserable. Alexander Holtz scored the tying goal with 7 minutes left in the game. They're going to overtime, so we got that.
That's on Marty Bobblehead night, right?
It is on Marty Bobblehead night. Marty's there. He's talking to the crowd, so at least we're having. I guess maybe we'll just all have to go to Utica. Have a big trip to Utica for the playoffs. We'll figure that out.
We'll have to do that.
But
that'd be pretty cool.
I look forward to seeing more. I look forward to seeing the off-season content, seeing some maybe some predictive content. Maybe some once we make some signings, you get to get a little creative with some of the new names. But we're looking forward to that. Frank, let them know where they can find you.
Oh man, I mainly just hang around the Bird app, the old Twitter. So it'd be at Backhanded Devil. I have an Instagram too, but I just kind of post up there. Most of it, like all the good humor and stuff, so everything's on Twitter, and that's about it.
Well, Backhanded Devil. If you're not following him on Twitter, why are you on Twitter? He's a must follow on Twitter. Make sure you go check out Backhanded Devil. The comic relief is, Frank, I don't know what's going to happen if we're good next year. I don't know what to do. What am I going to do with Twitter if we're not all negative? How are we going to do this?
Oh my! Do you realize the amount of trash talk that has been building up within me since 2012? I'm like, oh my God. I'm going to have to just apologize to every other fan base out there because it's just going to be relentless. Oh, #relentless.
It's going to be like, and this one you can take this one for free, Frank. It's that meme of the guy who's like biting the metal and making out with the girl and shaking the champagne, and he's in third place. That's us. The second we make the playoffs,
oh yeah,
it is Bird City, and I don't mean the Bird app. I mean we're gonna be flipping people off, Jersey style.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna be telling everybody where to go. We're gonna be burying the world, baby. Watch out for the Devils. Wild card. Let's go.
If the Devils finish ahead of Philadelphia this season, I might be that guy.
You'll just have to make the meme where there's like 7 people in front of you, but or 6 people in front of you, and then one team behind
entire
you.
Metro.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we beat the Flyers. Screw Philly. All right, Frank, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Keep up the good work.
That is Frank at Backhanded Devil on Twitter. If you haven't followed him, you can follow him now at Backhanded Devil. Always a good time. Always a good time with Backhanded Devil. Good friend of the podcast. I'm going to start egging him on. Just keep on egging him on. Because he's right, though. We've got all this pent-up anger, for the last, 10 years, with the exception of 1 year, that once we start winning, it's like game over. Like, it will bring out, the Jersey in us, and the trash talking will be relentless. Because we've got all this pent-up energy with this team. And what's crazy about it, Jack Hughes is for real. He's a generational player. And that's what we got out of this season. And you're starting.
Here's the thing.
What's that?
Sorry, you finished. I thought you were done.
No, you go ahead.
That's the difference between the Rangers and the Devils. Is the Devils very clearly have a generational player. Panarin is great. He's not generational.
No.
Lafreniere and Kakko don't look like they're generational.
They look
like they're on par with Nico.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to grow into is 50 to 60 to 70 point player. Jack Hughes looks like a 100-point per year player. Looks like he could be top 5 in the league. The Rangers don't have anyone maybe Adam Fox. Adam Fox maybe is one of those players, and Shesterkin. I'm talking about forwards, I guess. But when you look at forwards, they don't have that. They don't have a top 5 player at forward. The Devils have that top 5 play driver. They just need to get the goalie.
Yeah. They need to get the goalie, and they need to shore up a couple things.
Yeah.
For some of these mistakes. I mean, a lot of these mistakes are just, it's Lindy Ruff is not teaching them something where they're making those mistakes.
But something he's doing is not fixing it.
Well, here comes the point. I don't want to, we're towards the end of the podcast, but I'll just leave it like this. I'm all about holding players accountable, but do the Devils have that kind of depth where you could start benching star players at this point? I don't think they do.
So you say that, but we got a Utica team that's tops in the league.
But you don't want to pull them out of Utica at this point.
I understand. I do. I get that.
Yeah. But next year could be different for Lindy Ruff. Very different. But he will be on the hot seat if he can survive this season, which I think he will. That's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it.
I'll let you have that. You can end the podcast with that.
Oh, okay. Want to thank all those. Sorry we didn't get to some of these comments. I know Celluloid Therapy on YouTube Live. He's just going crazy with comments. Shane Van Sickle says the Rangers' window for winning is now. All their stars are pushing 30, 35 years old. So, but Heads Up Hockey says Lindy Ruff and staff need to go. We could debate it. Nick, want to thank you for everything you do. pucksandpitchforks.com. The stated fan address. It's not easy covering a bad team. It's not. Getting guests, you know what?
We were
but we figured it out.
6th in view count on the Fan-Sided Hockey Network in March. So people are reading.
Really?
I appreciate all the people out there for reading. Oh, real quick. Right now, I have 4 coaching situations that you should pay attention to because it could have implications on what the Devils do next. And tomorrow, I'm going to write a piece on Nico Hischier stepping up in Jack Hughes' absence.
Also, little side note, since opening day, the Let's Go Devils podcast, which includes State of the Fan Address, will report Devils After Dark, Game Day Live, Sunday edition, surpassed over 100,000 downloads since October 15th. Thought that was pretty cool, and the season's not even over.
There you go.
Just want to mention that. 100,000. That short period of time. Yeah. We're not stopping. But anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, Game Day Live, and Devils After Dark. Scotty at SiriusXM and I and Vinny Parisi at pucksandpitchforks.com. Nick, so long. See you later. Till next time, let's go Devils.